Okay. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this webinar hosted by Proudly South African, webinar called South African Youth, Are You Job Market Ready? A very, very important question and a very important discussion in light of everything we find ourselves in as a people, as a country, as the world, in light of the economy, and the list goes on and on and on. My name is Happy Ngidi Makumalo. I am the Chief Marketing Officer, Proudly South African, and today I'm also your Program Director. A very warm welcome, pun intended, very warm welcome in this cold weather to our guest speakers this morning. Thank you so much for hitting our call and receiving our invitation so graciously and showing up this morning. And I would also like to welcome all our attendees who are online, who have joined us this morning for this session. Thank you so much. So the program is as follows. We have speakers from Tight Labor Solutions, SA Employers for Disability. We have a business owner from a founder and CEO from Ogela Group. We have another speaker from Africa I'm hoping I'm pronouncing this properly. We have a speaker from Youth Capital, and we also have obviously a speaker from Proudly South African, and I will introduce them by name shortly. But just to, brief opening remarks is that, when we're preparing for this session, where does one even begin to, to give context to the discussion that we're having today? This is such an important discussion, like I said, when I opened up. And the long and short of it is that, if you're a young person looking into going into mainstream, into the job market, are you ready? Are you ready? And what does that mean? Anybody can interpret this differently. But also, we're not only speaking to those who are now wanting to get into the job market, we're also looking for somebody who's already in the job market and you're wanting to, to move from one place to another. So the critical questions is that, are you ready in the sense that, are you going to add value to, wherever it is that you are intending to go, or wherever it is that you are now being given an opportunity? Because, do you go look for a job and because you're just desperate to find a job? When you do go for an interview, when you're being interviewed by the panel, do you tell them that, well, I'm here? And if they ask you, why should we employ you? Do you just throw it out there and say, I'm here because I'm looking for a job? Or do you actually let them know the kind of value that you are bringing to that, operation, that organization, that company? And I think that's what many of them are wanting to hear. What value are you going to bring to their operation? But it also speaks a lot to job creation, obviously, the sustaining the jobs that we have. And there's young people out here who are not all going to make it into corporate South Africa, because it is not going to be possible for corporate South Africa to absorb everybody that comes from varsity, from colleges and all of that. It's just not possible. So what happens to that percentage of those that will not be employed by corporate South Africa, which is where entrepreneurship comes in, which is where job creation comes in as well, and which speaks largely to a big part of the work that we do at Proudly South African. Just before we kick off with our first speaker, I would like to ask the delegates that as we go along, you're most welcome to send your comments and or questions on the chat box or the Q's and A's box with the greatest of pleasure. We'll keep an eye on those and we will answer as we go along. And just so you know that we are live streaming, obviously on this platform that we are now, but we are also on Facebook, and our PR team is also taking care of the conversation on Twitter. Great stuff. So without further ado, it gives me great pleasure to welcome onto the platform. And may I ask that you switch on your camera at this point. The first speakers is going to be Ms. Belinda Francis, and supported by Ms. Losh Petha. Belinda is owner and managing director of Tyke Labor Solutions. Losh Petha, chairperson, SA Employers for Disability. And I'm hoping I've got all of that correctly, but if I haven't, please feel free to educate me and school me at any given time. My understanding is that your focus area, in regards to today's discussion, will be on what can unemployed people do that can better their chances of finding a job. Welcome, Belinda. I see you on screen. Please go ahead. Welcome this morning. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Happy. Good morning, all. Thank you so much for affording me, Proudly South Africa, the opportunity to be part of this awesome initiative. I'd like to obviously start by sharing the presentation because I do believe it would add value for prospective employees to be able to take something back with them that they could use in future whilst trying to enter the job market. As Happy says, it's a difficult time, it's challenging, but I must admit from my side, I do believe there's opportunity for many out there, be it in the job market as an employee or an entrepreneur. I'd like to start by explaining to you how TIKE assists with job opportunities. As a national generalist human capital provider, we offer the services of permanent employment as well as temporary or contract work. How this actually works is applications are made, and should a candidate that has applied be successful with an application made, we will assist in preparing a comprehensive CV, which is very crucial and the start point of entering the job market, because your CV is your brand and your way of connecting with the prospective employer. We then would submit this to our clients, who would then look at considering somebody for an interview. And this is something we have one shot at. Hence, we will ensure we will prepare you for that interview process. So when you enter that interview, you will be confident and comfortable with the process. Should an offer be extended, we will ensure we negotiate with you until you receive a job placement and an employment contract is signed. In terms of ensuring we reach a broad audience, advertising and publishing of vacancies is done on various platforms. And I think more so now with 4IR and digitization, we make use of Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, as well as our website on www.tike.co.za, and a national vacancies list, which is distributed weekly on a Thursday through a bulk email. Anyone is able to be part of this and has readily available information of what is happening in the job market in terms of opportunity within our organization nationally. In terms of partnerships, we've partnered with QASA, the Quad Para Association of South Africa, and we've had learners in our Durban and Gauteng office assisting them in developing skills and knowledge in the industry to make themselves more marketable. We've recently joined with Youth Build South Africa, which is a non-profit company looking to engage more than 7 million young people by enhancing their leadership, learnership, and livelihood aspirations. In terms of designated groups, we have 2 divisions which we've recently launched, one of them being our PWD, placement of persons with disabilities, and the other more focused on our youth, where we look at placement of graduates, learners, and interns as well. In terms of entering the job market, I'd like to take you through a few important elements. And like I mentioned, the CV preparation for me is the most vital, because this is your first contact with the prospective employer. Registration on various portals is relevant, as well as the interview process, your personal presentation as you are your brand, and effective communication, which should be from the onset. In terms of your CV, many companies do request a cover letter to better understand why you are looking to be part of the organization. This should be a brief overview of your work experience and skills relevant to your position that you're applying for, and provide reasons why you are interested in the position. Also, with regards to the CV, always start with a brief overview of your skills and attributes. Thereafter, list your personal information, which should include contact numbers. We often face challenges where we try to reach out to a prospective employee, but are not able to get hold of them, and there's no alternate contact number. That is very necessary, as well as driver's license and transport availability for work, because depending on the type of position you're applying, these are essential. Equity is very important as well, especially within our country, with corporates having to complete BE scorecards. Notice period is often left out, and this is essential for us to make a decision on whether or not to even pursue an application, because some of the applications do require people that are available immediately. In terms of your education, that should follow next, and list all the institutions, the type of study, as well as the year completed. Some people may be busy with studies and would just include currently studying with no anticipated end date. A prospective employer may consider you based on your end date of your studies. For your entry-level youth looking for employment, your matric subjects are very relevant, especially for learnership opportunities. Some of the learnerships are geared more for IT-related studies, therefore a matric level IT qualification is required, whereas some will be focused more on finance, hence we would look for a maths or accounting until matric. So please ensure this is also indicated on your CV. Employment history, start always with your most recent. List the company names, list the dates of employment, include duties, ideally in bullet form, which makes it easy to read for a recruiter, and always include reasons for leaving. Should you have gaps in your work history, please give a brief explanation for that. References are very relevant for us to get an understanding of your skill or ability with your previous employers. So this should be included for contact people who you reported to and not colleagues or friends, as they would not be a sound referee. You should also ensure that the names entered as a referee are people that you are comfortable with the prospective employer contacting and not your current employer, as this would jeopardize your position. In terms of registration on various job portals, this is very important, especially now with digitization. I've listed a few on the left of companies where you could register your CV as well as search for job opportunities. In terms of searches, we are often given the opportunity to submit our email addresses for job alerts. This will then assist you in having constant access to other job opportunities via email on the different platforms and portals. I've also listed to the right a few internship, learnership, and graduate program links that you could also visit for any of our entry-level youth seeking employment. Please be mindful that many corporates advertise job opportunities online, so take the time to visit different companies' websites to view what is happening in the workplace. Be mindful in terms of industry demand. If you look at our current situation with COVID, our medical industries are pumping in terms of job opportunities, but not just looking at hospitals, but also suppliers to the medical industries. Everything has gotten very virtual, so the IT space is another industry that is really busy. Be mindful when seeking employment to look at all these platforms as well. Facebook also offers many job networking sites where one could reach out to. I think one needs to be mindful that seeking employment is a job. You have to make a job of finding a job. So set aside time, be it weekly, to look for opportunity for yourself. I'm going to move on briefly on the interview process because Losh, who joins us shortly, will cover this in more detail. I've listed a few points in terms of what to do before the interview preparation and what to do when presenting oneself on the day of the interview, keeping in mind that many do virtual interviews, hence you need to be prepared. Make sure you're sitting in a place that is quiet, where they could hear you properly, and you have downloaded the necessary software for the process. Effective communication. This needs to be considered at the onset of your application. This is both verbal and written in terms of the way you note your duties, information on your CV, your cover letter, etc. So the tone must be considered when communicating. Be mindful of the words that are used, your grammar and punctuation, And even spelling, do a spell check and make sure everything is correct and to the point. Avoid the use of bold and caps when trying to make a point when contacting a prospective employer, as this can seem to be rude. In terms of pace, ensure your verbal communication is not too fast or too slow. Speak at a pace that captures your interviewer's attention, wants to understand and get to know you more, because a prospective employer often looks for a culture fit within their organization over and above the skills and attributes you bring to an organization. Speak clearly and keep to the point. We often ask questions and candidates will waffle on and sometimes not even understand the question. Don't be afraid to ask if you're unsure. Your volume, speak at a volume that is loud enough to be heard and clear for the interviewer to hear you. If you're often asked to repeat yourself, then you clearly need to consider increasing your volume, especially on a telephonic or virtual interview. Body language is very important. When you meet with your interview, a firm handshake and eye contact is always essential, because that is the first impression they get of you. Make sure your posture is right, no slouching or bending whilst communicating. Be mindful of hand gestures. So whilst we speak with our hands, if we're nervous to take the focus off our faces, ensure you're not speaking with your hands all over the place, because that can be very distractive in an interview process. Not all our youth are geared up to be employed by a company. Some of us want to follow the path of entrepreneurship. There are many opportunities for the creative and innovative minds who are willing to take the risk and become involved in owning their own businesses and becoming a prospective employer. There are also various programs offered in South Africa which focuses on supporting entrepreneurs, especially youth in business. I was privileged to be part of the Soho Sun Legacy Series and won Entrepreneur of the Year in 2019. Whilst I must admit the entrepreneur journey can be lonely, it can also be very rewarding. And programs like this, which support entrepreneurs and assist in enhancing our skill and ability to focus on all aspects of the business, does assist in a big way. The program also helps because it ensures entrepreneurs support each other through our experiences as well as buying from each other. This encourages localization. The program was started 13 years ago and has built a group of entrepreneurs through this awesome initiative. One of the benefits of the program was the opportunity to share our journey through a video by Brave Media Production. This proved to be an effective marketing tool for our business, but was also used to encourage other entrepreneurs on their journey. Whilst it is extremely exciting and creates opportunity for others, it's something that we need to work at daily. So from my side, I'd like to leave a message to the youth. Every day, get up, dress up, show up, and never give up, whether you choose to be an entrepreneur or an employee, because you are your brand. Thank you.
Belinda, thank you so much. You know, as you switched on your camera, and then I realized that I actually recognized you. And I'm so sorry that I didn't give you the warmest welcome given our background. And you have just now shared with the audience that you were, first of all, you're a member of Proudly South African, and you joined us about 4 years ago or 3 years ago or so, when you were part of the Togosan Entrepreneurship Program. So great to see you again. You won that entrepreneurship program that year. and a deserving winner, because I was one of the judges representing Proudly South African as a strategic partner. Tsogo-san is also a strategic partner of Proudly South African. And look at you. I mean, this reminds me why you won in the first place. I remember you coming into the boardroom, getting ready to be interviewed by a panel of judges, about 6 of us, very nervous, but you walked away a winner, and you are still forging ahead as a businesswoman, which is fantastic to see. Thank you so much for that presentation. A lot that young people sitting in this session today can take with them and use in their respective journeys, whichever way they see fit. I'm hoping that you are able to stay with us, because you may just have questions and comments and all of that, which we would like for you to hear, if that's okay with you.
All good. I'm here to support. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Belinda. Thank you. Okay, so with that said, if you have any comments or questions for Belinda, please feel free to send those to us, and we will share with Belinda. And now I would like to welcome on the screen, on the platform, Ms. Losh Petha, who is also going to look into the area of how you can better your chances when you apply, when you go out there and try and make it happen for yourself, whether you're somebody who's looking for a job, but also even if you're an entrepreneur. Remember, when you're an entrepreneur, you, in the course of wanting to clinch deals, do business, you may have to go see somebody or a company to try and get a deal and get business, and that could be in a way of an interview process where you sell yourself, you sell your services, you sell, your offering. So it's really twofold. Losh, I see you on screen. Welcome. Please go ahead with your
presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you. Very good morning to all of you. So I'm one of the people that has been load shedded this morning. So I had to come to a coffee shop to make the session. So I hope that I'm audible and clear, but please just alert me if there's any problem. So the South African Employers for Persons with Disability is really an employers forum. And our vision is essentially to enable disability confidence in the workplace for corporates. Our mission is to support members and employers with knowledge and insight on both visible and non-visible disabilities. And this is intended to actually support the employees with disabilities in the workplace. And our commitment is to cultivate a culture of inclusiveness in the workplace, namely for persons with disabilities, to ensure that the voices of persons with disabilities are heard and that fair treatment is applied, not just as a once-off, but in terms of on ongoing basis, workplace adjustment, reasonable accommodation, and we are very closely affiliated with the ILO. Our philosophy is informed by the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa and the EE Act. So what is the definition of a disability? According to the EE Act of South Africa, persons with disabilities are people who have a long-term and recurring physical or sensory mental impairment, which may cause them to face challenges in entering the job market and in the advancement thereof. And there are various types of disabilities that people go through during their lifetime. And it is stated that at some stage during our lifetime, we will experience a visible or non-visible disability. It's very, very likely. And physical disabilities, visual, hearing, mental or cognitive disabilities, and there are very other types of disabilities that people face as well. Apologies. According to the National Institute of Mental Health, a development disability is a severe and long-term disability that can affect one's cognitive abilities, physical functioning, or both. And these disabilities typically appear before the age of 18 and are most likely to be lifelong. So my message to youth with disabilities from an employer's perspective is when you are getting ready to go to an interview, some of the tips are ensure that your CV is updated with your latest information and contact details. So phone numbers and addresses and so on. Make sure all of that is detailed and updated, and even your qualifications, etc. Prepare for the interview. And how do you do this? Conduct research about your company that you're going to be interviewed by, and ensure that you understand which role you will be interviewed for. So that helps the preparation as well. Being on time is a very important trait. This shows interest and professionalism. So be there at least 10 to 15 minutes early so that you are settled by the time the actual interview is done. If this is done remotely with the times that we are living in now with COVID and remote working and so on, a lot of interviews are done remotely. So make sure you know how to connect to MS Teams or Zoom platform, etc. And at the start, in terms of etiquette, like Belinda spoke about the importance of etiquette and so on, at the start of the interview, thank your interviewer for the time and for inviting you to the session. During the interview process, answer questions that are posed to you. So often, employers and recruiters have a structured interview guide that they typically use to cover a number of aspects during the interview process. They will ask things to assess and understand your background and experience, how you worked in a team, how you managed around conflict, etc. So in this instance, my advice is to provide clear answers and keep them as short as possible, and try not to waffle and go into lengthy explanations. In this way, you set yourself up for success as well. In terms of your disability, be clear on what that is and state what support you would need in your unique circumstance. If you have a physical or a non-visible disability, explain to the employer or recruiter so that it gives them a comprehensive and clear understanding of what reasonable accommodation or workplace adjustment is required by you. So openness and honesty goes a long way. Other items and factors to consider is share how you function with your disability. Share how you are able to get through your day so that the employer can understand your unique situation. And during the interview, also share examples to illustrate your positive qualities. So showing initiative as an example, give examples of where you were proactive, how you helped other team members, and share any positive work experience as well. So a tip is to use the STAR approach, which is a common methodology used in targeted selection recruitment. And this explains your direct involvement in the actual work. So the typical process is to give the situation, scenario, what was the task you had to do in there, what were the specific actions you took, and what was the outcome or results. Ultimately, remember that you've been invited to the interview because the interviewer or employer was interested in meeting you. And this is your once in a lifetime opportunity to market yourself and show your qualities. Attitude and behavioral attributes are important traits that employers look for in individuals in the world of work. Remember that when in the employment process, typically employers have a future orientation and outlook. They typically want to bring in new recruits and incoming employees into their organization that will integrate into their culture and into their future plans in terms of their talent and leadership pipeline. So these are some of the basics that you can do to set yourself up for success when you are a youth with a disability, and this is from an employer's perspective. And a little bit more about us. The SAE4D just offers our members top-level exchanges and special speakers that speak at our breakfast sessions that talk about all the details around non-visible and visible disabilities in the world of work. And we actually speak to the employer and encourage them to integrate people living with disabilities into the existing workforce and new people, new entrants that come into their workplace. In terms of networking and collaboration, we offer that as well across all industries with our employers. And we also provide a network of suppliers and service providers in various aspects. We also look at idea incubation and growth, where people can actually hear firsthand what it is to go through and experience a disability, and how people, through a little bit of lifestyle modification, are able to function very effectively in the world of work and add value. And we also see that persons with disabilities have a great sense of work ethic and loyalty amongst our employers. That's what we've typically picked up. So that's typically what the SAE4D is doing for employers in South Africa. And we truly want to support youth and persons with disabilities to be integrated meaningfully and into mainstream corporate SA. So thank you very much for the opportunity and for Belinda to share the platform. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Losh. Your presentation is very insightful, and also just an area which is very critical that can be easily ignored in this whole process, of people with disability. And I'm glad that you brought in that element of this discussion, because we could be having somebody in the audience now who has a disability, and they want to know how they can navigate this the job market as well. So I really we are appreciative of the fact that you brought in that element. Thank you so much. You have quite nice comments on the chat box, as well as Belinda, where the audience is saying that they find your contributions and your what you're sharing very informative, excellent, and very real, and they can resonate with it. Thank you so much. I will now, with the greatest of pleasure, ask that our next speaker to switch on his camera. He is Mr. Eustace Mashimbie. He is the CEO of Proudly South African, and he is going to share with us, give us background and put this jigsaw puzzle into perspective, so you get a sense and an understanding of why we, as the Buy Local campaign, where we fit in, and why these type of discussions, and particularly now that we are in the, this is Youth Month, and he'll give you perspective into why we believe, in the reality that the youth have to find ways to make it because they're important in this whole value chain in light of the economy, so to speak. Welcome, Eustace. Please go ahead.
Okay, good morning. Thank you for having me. Good morning to everyone who has logged in today, as introduced by the program director. My name is Eustace. To Lars and to Belinda, thank you for the presentations that you gave this morning during Youth Month. Mine, as introduced, is to give you a sense of what Proudly South African is about. I think the presenters who spoke before me gave you a good sense of what it is that you need to look out for, what it is that you can do to contribute to your own success if you are in the job market, but also to help out, especially for those young people who are disabled, who also need to be given access to opportunities. So I'm going to now focus on what the mandate of Proudly South African is, but give you a sense as to where we come from. The country battles three main challenges, being inequality, unemployment, and poverty. The fact that a lot of our people, a lot of our young people remain unemployed remains, a very thorny issue in the country. And we see that the gap between those who have and those who don't have continues to grow, and that a lot of our people continue to battle to put food on the table and to just access basics like food, etc. And if you look at the unemployment numbers, in fact, these are the Q4 numbers, but the numbers came out last week, and we moved from 32.5 to 32.6%, but we still have in excess of 11 million of our people remaining unemployed, and the bulk of them remaining the youth. Youth unemployment remains at an all-time high in the country. And this is one of the reasons why as a country, we battle with unemployment is because if you look at an industry like this, I have two case studies. The first one is on furniture. If you look at the furniture industry, it's an industry that used to have about 3,500 factories employing people and making furniture items, different furniture items, be it beds and lounge furniture that is used for office purposes, home furniture, case goods, etc. And that dropped to less than 1,100 factories to be exact in 2020. So within a 21-year period or so, we lost about 2,400 of those factories that used to make furniture items. That simply means that people have lost the opportunity to be employed. If you look at the number of people that are employed in that industry, it used to employ about 50,000 people, dropped to about 20,000 during that period. And so a lot of jobs have been lost in the process. And those are direct jobs that are lost within the furniture industry. But if you look at the whole value chain, industries that feed into that industry and feed into furniture manufacturers, if you think of the plastics industry, it contributes synthetic fibers. The agricultural industry contributes natural fibers, hides, and skins, which are used in turn by leather and textile manufacturers who then supply those to the manufacturing industry that looks at producing furniture. If you look at the chemical sector, it provides paints and adhesives. The metal industry provides metal parts. So there are jobs in each of those industries that are part of the value chain. So the multiplier effect is not just limited to the 30,000 jobs that we have lost as per my previous slide, but there are many more jobs that are lost across the whole value chain every time we buy furniture that comes from outside of the country, because that furniture comes in assembled, so none of these industries are in a position to can contribute any raw materials. And so we have to find ways to create much needed new jobs and to get back all those jobs that have been lost. Another example is the clothing, textile, footwear, and leather industry. We all buy clothes, we all buy shoes, we all buy leather items and textile items like carpets and curtains and linen and bedding and all those kind of material and items. So every time you buy those items, you must be mindful of where they come from, because there are jobs being lost. Look at how many factories and plants we had making this kind of items in the country. In 1996, we had 1,600. That dropped to below 1,000 in 2016. And the reason for that decline is what you see on the right-hand side of the screen. We've had a 480% increase in imports that came into South Africa from outside of our country of these items. But look at the increase in imports from China, 730% increase in imports from China. So we continue to buy all these items that come from China and thereby supporting the economy. In terms of number of jobs, direct jobs lost, we lost more than 100,000 jobs in this industry, simply because we are importing those products, and as a result, the companies are closing down, jobs are being lost, and we have to start doing things differently. So Proudly South African is a buy local campaign, and this phenomenon is not unique to us. It's done worldwide. It's a tried and tested phenomenon all over the world, and it exists for towns, for regions, and even for countries. And if you look at a country like Australia, they have a campaign called Australian Made, which is what Proudly South African was modeled on. When Proudly SA opened its doors, the Australian Made campaign is what was used as a benchmarking campaign, and a lot of the initial measures put in place to establish the campaign, how membership was vetted, how the fee structure came from that Australian Made campaign. And Australians are quite big in terms of supporting their own. The US, which is a case study that I'm going to zoom into shortly, also has legislation in place. The UK has a campaign called Keep It Local UK. The Philippines have Buy Local, Go Local. And even on the African continent, we have seen a lot of campaigns coming up, and we have been instrumental in establishing some of them. We've helped establish Buy Zambia, Buy Swazi, Buy Malawi, Buy Zimbabwe. We've had talks with Mauritius when they explored starting a buy local campaign, the same with Tunisia. And so my case study in terms of demonstrating how important this buy local phenomenon is, especially in the developed economies, it's the US, where they even have legislation in 1933. So almost 90 years ago, they already had legislation in place. The Buy American Act, followed it up in 1982 with the Buy America Act, as well as the Buy America Improvement Act issued in 2017. And all of them aimed at making sure that if they're able to produce anything as the United States, if they have industries that are absorbing a lot of their people, and the example I've given, there's the automotive industry. Think of Ford, Dodge, and some of those cars that they make in the US. They prefer that is what is bought by the federal government and by consumers, as well as the private sector, whenever they buy those items that they are able to produce themselves. The new president came into office, and within his first week of office, he already signed executive orders aimed at strengthening Buy American provisions. He also delivered a briefing to Senate and Congress in April 2021, and he then spoke about the importance of local procurement and buying local in order to grow the US economy. So why is localization important? I thought this slide would help give insight, especially in the light of us being in Youth Month and the presentations delivered by those who spoke before me. The best way to can create jobs in any economy is to ensure that industries that are able to produce what the country consumes are supported. Because that way, as those products continue to come out of those companies and out of those factory floors, those jobs that are there can be retained. As we continue to buy from them and demand for their products grows, they will then be in a position to can produce more, and they might need to then recruit more people and bring in additional capacity so jobs can be created. You can run the best business. That coffee shop that Lash was sitting at will not remain operational if people don't go there and to buy the products that they're offering. And as a result, the business will close down, and all those waiters and waitresses and those who work in the kitchen, etc., will lose their jobs. So that's the importance of localization, supporting both products and services. The second need for localization is the fact that it helps us ensure that those who don't necessarily have skills can acquire skills. I mean, we were given tips today about how to apply for jobs and what to do and how to prepare for interviews, etc. But if you do not get access to those job opportunities, you will not be able to develop any skills. Sitting at home does not enable you to develop any skills. But if a company that, let's say a company that produces shoes continues to grow and employs young people into that business, those young people who had no skills and had no idea how shoes are made will then develop skills. That one person who is given a skill of and the responsibility for inserting heels or soles will then be a master of that of that craft, and would then be able to access other opportunities when they arise in other entities. So it's important that we grow the economy such that a lot of our young people can be absorbed into jobs, so that they can then acquire skills which will help them improve their lives, and then they can move up within those companies and move to other corporates and be able to fend for themselves and their families. Secondly, it contributes to the growth of the economy. It's given that if companies grow, the tax base grows, and the government is able to improve the living standards of those who live in that country and to provide better healthcare, better infrastructure, and better services overall. But more than anything, empowerment, it empowers those who are beneficiaries of that system. If entities that are producing their products locally continue to do well, it allows those who are new entrants to also come in. If the market share is retained within the country as a new entrant, you will then get support because people will be inclined to supporting products that are locally made. So those are some of the benefits of buying local. And if you look at countries that have successfully implemented localization in their countries, this is the US before COVID-19, before the COVID-19 pandemic started. They, despite having a population of 329 million people living in that country, they had unemployment rates standing at a low 3.6% compared to our 32.6% unemployment in South Africa. Only 5.9 million of the 329 million people are unemployed. Look at China, which is a factory for the whole world, not just for what is consumed by the Chinese, but for anything and everything that is produced all over the world. If there's a consumer out there, they will go and they will make a product and they will send it to that consumer. And 1.4 billion people living in that country, but unemployment standing at a low of 3.6%. And you can see the graph similar to that of the US kept going down before COVID-19. So our mandate is to ensure, as Policy African, that those who are responsible for buying choose locally made products every time they buy. And we look at the public sector, what is bought by government and all organs of the state. We look at what is bought by the private sector. We look at what is bought by the general public. And we educate the general public on the importance of buying local, so that as consumers, when you make purchasing decisions, when you buy that which you need for your household, you choose that which is locally made. And lastly, in engaging with government and the private sector, we seek to ensure that we make it easy for them to access locally made products. As a consumer, you might also want to buy local, but you might not know how to find the products and where to find the products. And the role of Policy African is to make it easy for locally made products and services to be accessible by the government, by the private sector, and the general public. So if you think of a typical retail value chain, our role as Policy African is to take the product from the manufacturer, ensure that when it gets to the retailer or put it on their shelf, the consumer demands it, because a retailer will not put a locally made product on their shelves if the consumers continuously walk into those retail spaces and choose imported products. And so that space will then be lost to imported products. And the role of Policy African is to ensure that we safeguard that retail space for locally made products, and that every time a locally made product is given a chance to live on a retail shelf, whether a virtual one or a physical one, that consumers choose it so that the retailer can then continue to order more of that product, have more of it available to consumers, and gradually take away that market share that was lost to imported products. And that's the role of Policy African, to stimulate demand for locally made products. We have a membership model, and companies that affiliate with us have to ensure that they conform with these 4 key criteria. First, that the product must be locally made, it must be of a high quality nature, because we don't want to say to consumers, buy a locally made product, but you find that the quality is not right. It must be able to fulfill the need for which it is sourced. And lastly, the companies that affiliate with us have to make sure that in the process of making these locally made products, they treat their workers fairly and they help us preserve the environment. In terms of the membership fee structure, it's not expensive for entrepreneurs who are on the call who might want to take up membership. It's 500 rands per annum. It's 1,000 rands, 500 rands per annum for companies with turnover up to 5 million rands. It's 1,000 rands for those with turnover between 5 million and 10 million rands. And the most that corporates have to pay to us is 100,000 rands, and that's for companies with a turnover of 100 million rands and more. There are many benefits, and I'll touch on those quickly in the interest of time, is that you can use the logo. You can use the logo on all your collateral, on all your products, so that consumers can easily identify the product which they are being asked to support and buy, which is locally made products. We have access to market platforms, and I'll take you through some of those quickly, but all of that is aimed at making sure that locally made products are taken up by those who buy. In the public sector, there are all these items that are designated. I won't go through them necessarily for this session. They're not too necessary for this session, but what we do is we track tenders that are issued for public sector procurement purposes, and we ensure that government buys local in that space. In the private sector, you can't force anyone in the private sector to buy local like the legislation prescribes in the public sector, but what you do in the private sector is we go out and we seek localization commitments. We ask companies in the private sector to ring fence items that are locally made. We identify companies in our books that can then go and supply those ring fenced items to the private sector. And we ensure that the private sector buys local. We have a few examples of where we've gotten the private sector to buy local, including we've asked the banks to buy locally made furniture. We've asked retailers to increase shelf space for locally made products. We've asked large manufacturers to use locally sourced raw materials. We've asked bodies that represent a lot of buying, like the Franchise Association, which represents franchisors and franchisees, both food and non-food franchisors and franchisees, to buy local, and predominantly to support the youth-owned, women-owned, and Black-owned businesses. The option of entrepreneurship should be one that's viable for any young person out there, because they will know that if they tick our boxes, if they comply with our requirements, they stand a chance of benefiting from some of these opportunities that we try and secure. We have also established portals. So if you have a business that supplies any of these items, the items can live on our portals, which are hosted on our website, because we go out into the private sector and we ask the private sector to buy face masks, hand sanitizers, face shields, disinfectants and detergents, medical PPE, and many more, including furniture, which is now on our website, to buy those locally. So if you have a product which is targeted at the private sector, you can list it there, so that when we go out and we say to the private sector, buy local, and they're looking for an item that you make and you supply as an entrepreneur, they can easily find it on our website. In terms of medical PPE, we've also created a portal for aprons, gowns, surgical masks, respirators, medical grade sanitizers, and examination of sterile gloves. And we're engaging a lot of the entities that buy a lot of these items, including the hospitals. In fact, over the last 2 days, we've been engaging the hospitals to try and see if these private hospital groups can start buying all of this locally, and they can find the suppliers on our website. We also have a furniture portal, like I said. So if you supply any furniture items, you can register with us. As a member, your details will be uploaded on the portal, which lives on our site, and buyers can then easily find your products. In terms of consumers, we have an own online store. We previously carried out activities before COVID-19, and we did mall activations, festivals. We would target universities, we would go into sporting arenas. We worked with the unions in terms of our labor mobilization drive. We do consumer expos and consumer advertising aimed at making sure that we get to every single South African and we educate them on the importance of them choosing locally made products when they buy and the impact thereof. We roll out consumer education campaigns that are specific to certain industries. We've done one for the clothing and textile industry, where we've said to Mzansi, are you wearing local? Which economy are you supporting? Wear local, so that you support jobs within the South African economy. We did the same thing with the poultry industry, saying South Africans they must buy locally produced chicken. And we roll out a campaign to support the hospitality industry because of the value chain involved. Every time you go out and you support an eatery within your community, there are many industries that benefit, those that supply them with the food, with the cutlery, the utensils, and the different ingredients that they use to produce the food that they serve. So we roll out different campaigns at different times of the year, including during festive season, before schools reopen. We roll out back to school campaigns. For Black Friday, we try and encourage our members to give discounts and try and offer specials, so that that Black Friday spending is driven towards locally made products. And we have established a campaign called Game Time. So during the hard lockdown, we came up with this campaign. And basically what we're saying to South Africans is that the country was already in trouble before COVID-19 hit us. And we saw the hard lockdown as an opportunity for us to pause, reflect, and as the economy opens up, to do things differently. So just like in a sporting game, if you take soccer as an example, if in the first half you're not doing well, at halftime, you come with new tactics and you regroup and you even make substitutions where required, and so that you perform better in the second half. That is what we're trying to achieve with this campaign, to say, as the economy reopens up after the hard lockdown, all those jobs that we had lost before the hard lockdown need to be recovered. The economy was not growing, we were downgraded. We need to do things differently. And one of the easiest things to do is for us to look out for locally made products whenever we buy for our businesses, for our homes, or if we work for government, when we buy for those entities that we work for. This campaign was rolled out in partnership with those commercial partners that you see, the major broadcasters, and there was a digital rollout of the campaign on some of those platforms that you see there. I'm going to play the ad. For those of you who have seen it, please indulge us. For those who have not, please pay particular attention to the messages that are coming out in that ad, because it is aimed at making sure that we educate South Africans on the importance of buying local. The ad was flighted between August and December last year, and we are going to bring it back, and we'll have another campaign to augment the messages that are contained in this campaign to ensure that we reach a wider audience than we did the last time around, and basically to get mindsets of South Africans shifted and changed in support of locally made products.
The second half is about to begin. We need to change the scoreboard. It's time for all of us to pause and rethink the game plan in order to save the future. I call on all of us to be game changers, because greatness isn't reserved only for some people. By buying local, we're choosing to create jobs and sustain the ones we have. Time and time again, South Africans have taken destiny into their own hands, creating products that the rest of the world wanted to buy. See, the world remembers about us, what we sometimes forget. But it's time for change. Let's all buy local. It's game time. Zanzi.
Local is lekker!
Your everyday decisions shape our future.
And that's the campaign. So thank you to everyone who joined us today. And I thank you for indulging me. If you are keen to take up membership of Proudly South African, visit proudlysa.co.za, go to the membership tab and fill in the form that is on there, or alternatively write to us, info@proudlysa.co.za, and we'll be able to assist you take up membership and become part of this buy local movement. Thank you very much, Program Director. I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mashenge. We appreciate your presentation, and to everybody who's in this on this platform, and you may be in the audience and you're an entrepreneur, there you have it. What more can I say? There you have it. The ball is in your court to do the right thing for yourself. I like to loosely use this word, invest in yourself, and associating yourself, or your business rather, with Proudly South African is a way to pay yourself, to do right by your own brand, to be able to have access to all these market opportunities. One day you could be sitting here just like Belinda, sharing your story as a Proudly South African member. And outside of what you see as a webinar, there's many other things that are marketing related, comms, PR related, that will be at your disposal only if you're a member, of course. And like Eustace says, should you be keen to join us, you're more than welcome to send us an email on info@proudlysa.co.za, or you're more than welcome to follow us on all social media platforms to see what more we do. There was a question for Belinda on how to work your way up the corporate ladder and make sure that you get the attention of the powers that be, for raise, in salary and all of that. But we will give Belinda the chance to answer when we get to the Q's and A's. I just want to give other speakers a chance to go through the program as swiftly as possible. So I have noted that question. Awesome video. Where can we get it? Can we add to email signature? Yes, with the greatest of pleasure. You can access the video on YouTube. It is there, and with the greatest of pleasure, edit your email signature, because the more we spread the message outside of the corners of Proudly South African, the more we spread the message and spread the narrative, the better. For the betterment of the economy and for everybody's benefit in South Africa. So yes, by all means. Thank you, Eustace. Definitely a proud member of Proudly SA, great benefit and great supporting local businesses, a big promoter of this initiative that's a member. Thank you so much. Please put up the link on the chat. May I request that PR and the office back end, can you please put a link on this chat? There is a request. We'll do that with the greatest of pleasure. Thank you so much. And now I'd like to invite the next speaker, who is going to share her journey with us. He is a founder and CEO of a company called Ogela Group. Her name is Ms. Allegro Dingwanyane, and her focus area is why should youth venture into business. She has ventured into business. I've seen her in action. We've shared a stage before in the past. I think it was around Entrepreneurship Month in Soweto about a year or two ago. So I've seen her in action. She is a trailblazer. You are about to be blown away by Allegra. Great to see you again, Allegra. We meet again, and we're happy to have you at this Proudly South African platform. Please, the mic is yours, so to speak. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Happy, and good morning to everyone. The audience, the speakers, the host. Thank you for having me. And it's been great just listening to some of the speakers that I was fortunate enough to find already engaging with you guys. We unfortunately had load shedding, so I missed, I think, the beginning of the session, but I'm happy to be here. And I don't have a presentation. I'm just going to speak about my experience as an entrepreneur and just encouraging the youth on why they should embark on an entrepreneurial journey if it's something that they want to do. And I think for now, I would actually say it's something that you should be considering, looking at where we are as a country and young people, and the unemployment rates, as Eustace also touched on in his presentation. So as mentioned by Happy, I am the founder and CEO of Ogela Group. We have been in business now for 10 years. We'll be 10 in October this year, and I started my journey with entrepreneurship when I was 21 years old as a almost graduate. I was studying journalism at the University of Johannesburg, and I started my business with an entertainment blog. And, right now we are into different industries, from agriculture to communications. I have a PR marketing agency and so many others. But if you want to find out more about my company, you can go to www.ogelagroup.com, and all our info is there. And you can also keep in touch with us on social media. So the importance of getting into entrepreneurship, I think the stats, if those are not enough to encourage you, then I'm not sure what else will, because there are simply just not enough jobs in South Africa to accommodate young people. We have so many graduates. I have friends, people that I have gone to school with, that are still sitting at home, that have had no other option but to just start a side hustle, And I think sometimes when we speak about entrepreneurship, because there's very little support from the capital side, people will tell you one of the biggest fears, I think, for young people to start businesses, they always say, I don't have money, where will I start? There isn't enough financial support from perhaps my family, my friends, or government, or just, just around, it's difficult. And I give my story as an example that I had zero capital. I had to work odd jobs. I mean, I was still a student at UJ, and by odd jobs, I mean, I was interning at a local newspaper. I was interning for a magazine that was on campus. So I would write articles and get paid per word. And I saved up for that startup capital that I needed, which was enough for me to launch my website, to register my company, and just get all the admin stuff out of the way before I really got the ball rolling. So I realized too that, I'm not going to get the funding that I need in time to start the business that I want to start at the very young age that I was at. So never let the fear of, not having enough funding or startup capital to stop you from actually pursuing that business idea. I have knocked on doors like many other young people in South Africa have. I've knocked on the NYDAs, I've knocked on, the private sectors. And, a lot of the times when I was still starting, I was told that you are too young and inexperienced to have a company, go work somewhere else. And then maybe later when you have experience, we might support your ideas. And for me, I was on the opposite side. My thinking was, I want to start young. I want to make all the mistakes that I'll be making throughout my entrepreneurship journey. Even now, after almost 10 years, you always make mistakes and you learn from those. I didn't want to wait when I was in my 30s, 40s to then start a business. And it was quite sad that a lot of people back then, 2011, 2012, did not believe in the ideas of young people. For me to be told that go and work somewhere else first, maybe gain some experience, you're too young. And I was 21. And I thought, well, I mean, if you talk about the future of South Africa being in the hands of young people, why are you not supporting young people? So it was very frustrating. And you will go through those moments of challenges where it's frustrating. You feel like you're alone and no one is supporting your ideas. No one believes in your dreams. And you will be your own cheerleader. And as Happy mentioned, you need to invest in yourself. You need to be your number one, funder. Start there, and later on, I feel like once you start proving people wrong, the ones that have been watching your journey and watching you start slow will be able to, come on board and start investing in your business and so on. And even if they do, you keep it moving and you keep going. So I think, besides the stats telling us that, there just simply aren't enough jobs in South Africa for young people. I know so many young people in South Africa that are super, super talented, but they sit on their, their dreams and these big ideas, these great ideas that they have simply because of the fear of failure. And I recently shared on my social media that, in entrepreneurship, you are more likely to fail than not. So you saying, I'm not going to start this business idea, I'm too afraid, I'm going to fail, and everybody's going to laugh at me, or, I'm going to be considered a loser or whatever it is, just start. I know successful entrepreneurs that are on their 6th, 7th business. They've had failures. Their first 5 businesses failed, but they learned something from that and they picked themselves up and they kept going. So never let the fear of failure be something that really puts you back and holds you back from pursuing your goals. And also don't think of entrepreneurship as, I know it can be daunting, but maybe when you start thinking about it as perhaps turning your hobby into a business, it becomes a lot more, okay, I can do this. It becomes a lot more, you believe in yourself more. It's not as daunting as it is when you say, I'm putting together a business plan. This is what I'm going to do. That's how I started. My business started with an entertainment blog. And back then, blogging wasn't as profitable because it was still a growing industry in South Africa, and I was following, American bloggers and some in Africa and Nigeria, but it wasn't huge. And it was a school assignment. We were doing online journalism and our lecturer asked us to create a fake blog, like a mock-up blog. And I came top of my class, and I remember Ms. Nadia van der Merwe, our lecturer, called me aside and said, you know what? I loved your blog so much. And as much as it was just an assignment, I think it's something that you should pursue and perhaps see where it could take you, because blogging is becoming a thing, And I took her advice, and that's how I launched Orgel Entertainment. You know, I enjoyed it. It was a hobby. I loved writing articles. I loved writing about celebrity pop cultures, the fashion, the music, all of that, you know. So I ended up turning my hobby into a business, and that led to where Orgel Group is today. That opened up so many doors. So if I had sat on that hobby and not, you know, thought outside of the box and thought of, you know, even thinking of making this into turning it into a business, or not even taking my lecturer's advice, I would have lost out on an opportunity to build the business that I have today. You know, I would have graduated and perhaps gone job hunting like many of, you know, the young South Africans that do, and perhaps I would have gotten lucky and gotten a job, or I would still be job hunting. I don't know. But I took her advice and I started, you know, while I was in my third year, just about to graduate. And I've never looked back since. So turn your hobbies into businesses. Don't be afraid. Like if you love baking, you love cooking, you love whatever it is that you like, you can make it, turn it into a business. I know a young lady who is an accountant at a company here in Sandton, but she's also a baker. And one day her dream is to open her own bakery, and you know, she makes beautiful cakes. I always order my cakes for my family members from her. And her dream is to one day own her own bakery and leave the corporate world. And you know, it's something that it is doable, but I think it's daunting. And I understand when young people come to you with questions on social media, they're like, how did you do it? I'm struggling to just get people to believe. I'm struggling to get customers. I mean, here we are, we have platforms such as the Proudly South African support that they offer to entrepreneurs. And I'm actually since I'm actually going to contact Proudly South African. I'm going to get my products on board, because we recently launched several products, and I have 2 online stores, and I would love the support that Proudly South African offers. So, I mean, we have platforms such as these that are helping young people, but I think sometimes when not enough is said about them, not enough, you know, word is out there, we tend to not know about these companies, and we just think that there's not enough support because the government is not doing enough, or you know, we have so many complaints going around. But as we dig deeper, I think we'll realize that there are companies out there that are you know, for young people, that are there to listen to young people's voices and support our ideas, and they're not afraid to invest in young people. So I'm glad and I'm happy about the work Proudly South African is doing, and I'm definitely going to join. But yes, in a nutshell, also just in conclusion, because like I said, I'm just speaking from my experience with no presentation. If you are here, you know, in the audience, and you're watching this session, and you want to go into entrepreneurship, and you have all these doubts, I'm not sure it's the right time to start. I don't have enough money. Just start. There'll never be the right times to start. I think most people will tell you that have been in your shoes, that, you know what, if you keep waiting for the right time to start, you never will, because you'll keep making excuses. I launched an online store last year, May, my first online store, in the middle of a pandemic. It was not a time to start. A lot of people would have told me, no, don't do it. You don't know where we are going. We don't know what's going to happen after this pandemic. What's the new normal? But I did it anyway. I just started, you know, and a year later, I'm happy that I started, because now I'm on to my second online store. And I've seen the opportunities. I've developed new skills within the pandemic. I didn't know how to start a website. I used to pay people, graphic designers, web designers, but I'm proud now to say that I've developed 2 of my own websites. During the pandemic, I sat down at home and I said, what can I do? You know, I'm a young person and I have all these ideas, and just because we're in a pandemic does not mean that my life has to stop. And that's when I started, you know, and now I guess you could say I'm a business owner / web developer, but do not send requests for me to develop your website. I'm still doing this just for myself, but it's a skill that I picked up during the pandemic. You know, there's so many things that sometimes I feel like as young people, we make excuses also, but we can spend a lot of our time on social media, yet not see the opportunities that technology is offering, social media offers. I could have just sat here and tweeted away, like most people were about, just, our fears and the pandemic and where we're going, and tweeted a whole bunch of memes. But I sat down and I started doing some research, and I found, a YouTube channel where they teach you how to create websites. And I just did a whole bunch of research, and eventually I said, you know what, just do it, try it and see. And once I started doing that, I was like, this is not so bad, and that led to a business in the middle of a pandemic. And like I'm saying now, I've launched 2 online websites, online stores now that are doing well, relatively well for, just a little over 12 months that I've started these businesses. And it's something that I use now as an example also to just encourage young people that I know that we are going through the toughest of times as a country, and just generally as the whole world with the pandemic, but do not use this time to get lazier or make more excuses of why you don't start. I think this is actually the best time to start something for yourself. And you can look back years later and say, instead of sitting around and complaining, and as we were going through the dark times, I actually did something about it. I found a solution in the middle of the pandemic and the chaos and everything that was going on, the unemployment and so on. I was able to start something that I'm now thankful that I started maybe 2-3 years ago, So go out there and just believe in yourself, and don't be afraid to fail. Your first business might fail. Go into the next one, or go back to the drawing board and redo that business plan again. And surely the second, third time you will not fail. And also just invest in yourself, save up money. If you're working, save up money from your job, your 9 to 5, and invest into your side hustle, turn it into a business. Don't just quit your job and say, I'm going to start, a business. If you're fortunate enough and you have a job, save up, do it on the side, and eventually I think you will know when to take that leap of faith and go into business 100%. I never did that. I just took that leap of faith when I was still studying. But I also knew that I'm a graduate, I have experience, and I feel like if ever this business world thing does not work out for me, I will go job hunting. I'll probably go knock on Media 24 and use my degree. But fortunately enough, I haven't been I haven't done that since starting my business, and I'm grateful for that. But I had a plan B, and I know sometimes people will tell you that if you really believe in something, you shouldn't even have a plan B on the side. But I believe in plan Bs, just so that if plan A does not work, I have something to fall back on. But that does not mean that I give up on plan A. I just need to pick myself up and continue, pursuing my goal, which was always to be a full-time entrepreneur. So I hope my sharing of my bit of my experience and why you should go into entrepreneurship has inspired you, and you're going to get up and go and start that business, and also just partner and become a member with Proudly South African. Like I said, I'm definitely going to do that, because I see the benefits that others are enjoying with being on Proudly South African membership. So why not? Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Allegra. Don't go away. Don't switch off your camera. Thank you. What an incredible story. You just remind me of the reality that everybody has a story to tell, right? And only you can tell your story better. I think I've heard some of your, this before, but obviously there's been a lot of growth. But given what I knew about you, I could never relate it this way. So it's beautiful. Just to see, but here's I've got a bone to pick with you. You said 21 years old, you started a business. Listen, Allegra, at 21, most of us are still trying to figure it out. What you want, let alone to think business. You're trying to figure out and navigate this thing called life, and you were opening a business at 21.
Yeah, I think I did the figuring out from maybe my early teens, 16, 17. I was already trying to figure out, what do I really want to be? Do I want to be, because I was good at a lot of things. And sometimes I think when you're good at a lot of things, you tend to be, undecided. But I was like, am I going to be a chef? Am I going to be, an author? Am I going to do? And then I just somehow, when something is meant for you, like I said, my lecturer, that assignment, everything just kind of was aligned. And I knew that, okay, hang on, I think I want to be an entrepreneur in the media space. And that's how I started before venturing into other industries, from communications and journalism side, the behind the scenes of it. So I think I did my figuring out in my early teens. By the time I was 21, I was already asking myself the questions of what am I going to do after, and even then the reality was that there weren't enough jobs. I mean, I remember a lecturer of mine would always tell us, like, they would scare us. We were like, but why are we here studying if you keep telling us every day that there aren't enough jobs? They would always tell us there aren't enough jobs. Half of you here are probably going to sit at home, but you're studying anyway. And now we're looking at each other in the lecture room like, but then why are our parents paying for us to be here, telling us every day that there aren't enough jobs, but that just continued to drive me forward in my plan to become an entrepreneur. Then hang on, if I succeed at this, I will be able to hire other young people, which I have successfully done now. And I'm so proud of, because where would they be had an Allegro not taken the leap of faith to start her business? And today they work with me.
Yeah, you are so spot on that, so there aren't many jobs for everybody. It's not going to happen. It's not. So the question you should ask yourself if you're unemployed is, what am I going to do? And here you are, perfect example of what you can do. But I also like that example you made of your friend who is an accountant, but bakes very well. And which, I think one of the takeouts amongst the many things you've shared is that, somebody sitting here must understand that firstly, you have to get into business where and do something you like, because I think most of us just do business because you try to hustle, you do this, you do that, but it has got to be something that you really like. You liked communications, and then you started a blog in communications in the media space. You didn't go and just go, I don't know, just paint someone's house because you want to, and you have no interest in that, and it doesn't speak to your soul, it doesn't speak to you, and it's okay to fail. Look at, you say you come across people who failed 5-7 times, but they keep going back because they've learned something from what they've put out there. But because also, who guaranteed that it's going to be smooth sailing? Business is not easy, right?
Yeah, it is. It is not. Absolutely. I mean, follow your passion. I know sometimes we hear this a lot as young people, and when you're going through a tough time, you think, oh, here's another cliche. Here's someone else just telling me to stick it out. But it's absolutely true. I've seen it with my own experience with entrepreneurship. I love everything that I do, which is why when people ask me, how do you do it? Besides the team, besides the hard work, how are you so consistent over all these years that you've been in entrepreneurship? You've stuck to your path, doing what you absolutely loved. I've never been swayed to enter a different industry, maybe beauty or something else, just because I'm seeing other people doing it. I stuck to my guns. I stuck to what I love doing, and that's my passion. And the money will definitely follow. Stick to what you love doing and be innovative in that industry. There's so many ways for you to grow. You don't need to quit what you love and what your passion is just because Uhappy is doing, I don't know, beauty. She's opened a hair salon. I know nothing about that, and I'm not even passionate about that. Yes. I could be miserable at that job just because I want to make a quick buck. Never do that. Don't sell yourself short and overlook your passions and what you're really good at just because your neighbors are doing well financially. That's what they love, and that is why they are succeeding. Focus on what you love, because when the days are darker, when the finances are running dry during a pandemic, you will still do it. Even when you're left with 1 or 2 clients, you will still do it, as passionately as when you had 20 clients, because that's what you love, and business will start to pick up again, even after the pandemic. So don't go with the hype. Don't follow all these trends just because people are doing it. Just stick to what you love.
In the spirit of Youth Month, you are doing amazing things. You give us hope and give everybody hope that there's young people out there like you who are doing incredible stuff. And if you can do it, anybody else can do it. But in closing, I just want to say that my favorite line that you shared with us today, utmost favorite, that I'm going to hold you to it. You have said that you are joining the Buy Local movement.
Oh, yeah.
That. Everybody heard you say that. So I'm going to ask the marketing team who found you to be part of this, to email you and give you, take you through the process, link you up with the membership department. And we are looking forward to presenting you with that proudly South African certificate that you can showcase wherever you do business out there going forward. Thank you so much, Allegra.
Thank you, and I'm looking forward to it.
Allegra, I love your story. Do what you love and the money will come. I agree. Passion becomes a success. Somebody says on the chat line. Thank you so much, Allegra. Thank you. Great. Okay, great stuff. So there you have it. That's Allegra. She is going out for everything, and no sense of entitlement, just hard worker, really hard worker, innovative, who is, is going for everything, and she is in it to win it, clearly. If she can open up another element of her business during hard lockdown, a website offering, it means she's just, there's no stopping her. So just so you know quickly, the Game Time and Mzansi advert, the link is on the chat box, so you're most welcome to have access to that. Our second last speaker is Mr. Sipho Mamize, who is Deputy COO for Africa Tican. I really hope pronouncing that properly, but please may I ask that you switch on your camera, Sipho, and welcome. Sipho is going to talk to us about the importance of 4IR, and he is going to share with you pointers that can help you advance this competitive world in the job creation element, employment and all of that. Sipho, are you online?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you, Chair. I hope I can be heard and seen in about a second. Santin, we were load-shedded earlier on, so some of the features are no longer coming up as I wish them to do. But let me try and upload now and see. Right, because my topic is not as difficult to deal with, maybe I should just leave technology to itself and then focus on what is important, which is why I'm here. Thank you, Allegra, for making it difficult for me to make a presentation, because you said almost everything I need to speak about. However, being a proudly South African, I would like to represent a company called Africa Tikkun, which I wish you could have the visuals of what I have prepared, but technology is playing me for games here. However, we look at Africa Tikkun from a point of saying, who are we? Our vision is to enable young people to become economically empowered. And that leads to a simple concept of how do we ensure that young people have got economic pathways in South Africa, in this economy. And to be able to do that much more better, I invite people to look at our website. But for this presentation, I would like to start by indicating the following. This is a quote by Wadia Eid Hazma. If business, and I put in there, if young people not listening to young people, they're not listening to their future customers, they're not listening to their future competitors, they're also not listening to their employees. What I would really have to say today about digitization as in part of the 4IR is, one, we need to understand the concepts. And I'm not hoping to lecture in any way, shape, or form. I'll be too quick on them. First of all, one has to define what is digitization, what is digitalization, what is digital transformation. Throw all of that away. Digitization would be you taking what is hard copy, putting it in a soft copy so you can use it at the same time with people across the globe. It is that time that you look at what is it that is important that I can share. What does it do in essence? It enables you to do the following in easier method. One, it improves the product. Whether it's production, whether it is to move the product from point A to point B, that's what 4IR will do for you. It also enables automation of processes, whereby you can easily, as I am sitting in Sandton now, communicating with somebody I don't see, but I know somebody somewhere is listening and is viewing this video. So in automation, it's wherein you are able no longer to only mechanize, but work with different people at different time, or make it simpler by using machinery, robots. The last one is simplification of communication, which is exactly what Allegra stamped very well. Most of us did do journalism, but where are we today? I am in the NGO space. Some people joke about it and say nothing goes on, and I say come and see. What are the focus areas that I would like us to walk away from this conversation with at the end of the day is, one, you are a brand. Deloitte in 2008 produced a report that looked at companies and said to companies, for you to enjoy 4IR, please make sure that you do 4 things only. Number one, reimagine. 4IR as an opportunity to be welcomed, not a threat, not a problem to be confronted. We look at South Africa today and look at what is happening to the youth, marginalized or not. We have to reimagine who are we, where are we going, how are we going to get there? I want to simplify it by saying to you, reimagine yourself in the position where you wanted to be, whether in business, in employment, or being somebody who produces a product that must go to the market. Reimagine yourself. How do you use technology to ensure that your product leaves the store floor or the production floor into the hands of the consumer? And Africa Tikkun's response to that was agripreneurship, where we assist young people to understand where food comes from, because many of us, if we ask that question, we might give different answers that will really embarrass us. Secondly, reposition yourself. The world over is collaborating, is working with people from different parts of the planet and getting things done. Do not look at where you are as the final destination. Use it as your starting point to get somewhere. If Allegra at 21 shared her story of how she started a business, would say to me, I started reimagining things at 21, I would have like, But because she says at 16, she began asking the question, why? Why am I here? What am I capable of doing? Where am I going? How do I get there? My to you is to say, why are you on the planet? Make a difference. Realign. Find people who are having similar thoughts, similar plans, similar ideas as yours. Brainstorm together. Take a niche that you would say, this is our unique angle, and this is how we want to do things, and this is how we want to achieve things. You define what are those things that you want to do. Reframe the possibilities. We have been through a hard lockdown. We are through a very interesting period whereby in the morning you wake up, there is electricity. 5 minutes later, you're on load shedding stage 4, 5, 6, 7, I don't know. But the truth be told, reimagine the possibilities. What is it that the youth of South Africa see as solutions that will enable the youth of South Africa to move forward and be what O.R. Tambo said, that we are the future. And I want to say we have arrived at that future, and we need to create the next generation's future. Yes, we've got 30% and more unemployment in South Africa. What does it mean in real terms? It means your chances of getting a job in this economy are very slim. But you can create a job. Please go out there. Look at things that you do naturally, that you love doing, that you enjoy doing, that you can teach somebody else to do. Do it whether as a volunteer, do it as whether you're getting paid. But I want you to have a research method in mind. It's called action research. This is where you look at the policies that our government has created, opportunities that are there, and say to yourself, Who is implementing? Who is monitoring? And as action research, how do we tweak it? How do we make it better for ourselves? Finally, I want to challenge you to say, at the end of the day, you are unique, you are a brand, you need to go out there and sell you. If you cannot sell yourself, nobody else will. And I urge you to go to www.africatikun.org.com. You'll come across a lot of information that will direct you to say, what does Africa Tikun do for the children in the early childhood development? You look into the policy of government, government defines that if we are to succeed, we need to have children in ECD, which is early childhood development centers, as early as 0 to 6 year olds. The policy is there. Who are the implementers? We are, you and myself. We should go out there. We should get out there and make it happen that we have those ECDs. And then what happens to the strategists out there? They're saying, yes, you must have ECD, but you need to have after school care programs. When children come from school, they need a safe environment that will enable them to study, eat, and play. I say it again, study, eat, and play. If you don't study, you will remain with what you knew yesterday. If you don't eat, the growth patterns are going to be difficult for you. Therefore, you need to be in a space that allows you to do all three, and you do it in a safe space. And that is, Africa Tikun offers that. Other than that, you've got matriculants that say, I've been in the streets, I've not gotten anywhere. Go to the website, find out what Africa Tikun does. We've got bursaries, we've got internships, we've got programs that might enable you to be employable. What has worked so far for human beings is to know who they are. What are they capable of? And what are they willing to give away in order to get to where they're going? I need to say, you've got time, you've got a talent, you've got an opportunity to look at this fourth industrial revolution and say, using WhatsApp, what is it that I can do for others that can create economic pathway for me? Using all digital platforms that we are exposed to, whether we go to the cafeterias or coffee shops, as long as there is internet, connect with people that will enable you to be who you are and where you want to be. And I thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your presentation. Very insightful. Thank you for making time, Sipho, for that. I've learned a new word today, Africa Tikun. I'm so sorry that I pronounced it incorrectly earlier. You know, many things to take out of your presentation, but you are saying that if you struggle with employment or getting, you know, getting hired somewhere, is that you need to pause for a second and ask yourself, what is your purpose? What is your purpose? And surround yourself with like-minded something in an effort to do something, which is, you know, which is something that I think Allegra also touched on. What do you like? You know, what is your purpose? And you say, if you can't sell yourself or your offering, no one else will, right? People? Yeah. You know, thank you. Thank you so much. There's one or two questions or comments for you. But before I take that, I just want to invite, last but certainly not least, speaker, Ms. Crystal Duncan-Williams, who is Project Lease Youth Capital, whose focus is going to be, do we give sufficient attention to localization as a driver of job creation? Thank you so much, Crystal, and I'm very sorry. Please accept my apologies that we're running slightly late. We're navigating load shedding and all sorts of things, but we are here now. Please, may I invite you to grab the mic, please. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody, and thanks so much, Happy. Not to worry, we're all dealing with ESCOM. I was luckily dodged the bullet this morning. So I lead a project called Youth Capital, and we are really a project that works at the nexus of policy, the lived experiences of young people, evidence and research, And we try to pull all of these together around a holistic 10-point action plan for addressing youth unemployment. And we believe why we have been unable to shift the needle on youth unemployment to date is because we haven't had a shared agenda for all the sectors working in, for all the actors working in youth development, and that young people's lived experience has been missing from the conversation. So I just wanted to give you a little bit of background in terms of where I'm coming from today. I also don't have any slides. I'll just be talking through 4 main points. And I hope that this adds value to the conversations we've had so far today. So in our experience at Youth Capital and looking at the research and the evidence, there are various challenges that youth face in their journey from school to work. And I think we often misunderstand that journey and we oversimplify it for young people, and we sell them this story of you'll go to school and then you'll go to university and then you'll find a job and you'll live happily ever after. And that's not the reality of the world we live in, and it's certainly not the experience of young people. They face many challenges in trying to complete their education, issues with trying to access their certificates once they have completed because of debt or administrative backlogs, both of which are unacceptable. Issues with not having enough support. We often speak about giving financial support to young people, but there is a serious lack of psychosocial support and academic support for young people beyond just what they receive in a classroom. If we look at the time between when young people leave places of study and enter into the world of work, we see that they face numerous challenges there. They don't have social capital. I think a lot of, everybody here, and especially the entrepreneurs that have spoken this morning, will attest to the fact that it's all about who you know. But 60% of young South Africans live in households without any employed adults. And if you don't have any access into the world of work, how do you know how to look for work, where to look for work, how to behave in the workplace? And these are the challenges that young people face. And then also the cost of job seeking. A study from 3 years ago put the cost of job seeking at an average of around 500 Rand a month that young people spend on looking for work. And so when you think of those challenges, young people often have to make the choice to either look for work or to have food on their tables. And you can understand why, the numbers of discouraged work seekers, so people who have given up looking for work, has increased quite significantly in the last 10 years. And then if we look at the area of actually finding a job, the economy is where it is, and entrepreneurship is obviously an option for some young people, but it's not an option for everybody. I like to be the, the counter voice in the room to say that some people, and I mean Allegra is a prime example, she is clearly meant for this, but not all young people are, and so we have to give young people the options. And I think this is important. We need to provide a system and an environment where young people can find out what their skills and talents are and make the most of that to become thriving adults and to contribute meaningfully to them, for themselves, to their families, to their communities, and to society at large. And there are untapped potential in the current job landscape. We don't value young people's hustle. We don't value work in the social economy or the informal economy. We look at public works opportunities, and the government hasn't really leveraged the research and the evidence to make sure that these programs are designed in ways that they actually help young people step into their next opportunity, whatever that opportunity may be. And so these are just some of the areas that we find are challenges for young people, and this is all covered in our action plan, which you can find on our website at youthcapital.co.za. But now to the main question of this presentation today and this conversation, and that is the question of, do we give sufficient attention to localization as a driver of job creation? How do we create more jobs in this space? And should localization and entrepreneurship be part of a school curriculum? So I think Eustace has covered some of this already, but there's clearly a discrepancy between what we produce and consume locally and what comes from importing. The stat I had was that 25% of South Africa's GDP is spent on importing goods from other countries. And COVID-19 has only served to highlight the fragility of having this globalized economy. And so we need to look internally, we need to look locally. And I think that the pandemic presents a moment and an opportunity to look at these long-term structural deficiencies in the South African economy and try to think, build back better, to use the phrase that's going around, and place this economy on a different path. We know that localization is one of the core focuses of the economic reconstruction and recovery plan, and I think that's great. That's exactly where it needs to be. And so, what do we need to make localization of the economy work? And I think we should really be focusing on SMMEs, you know, small to medium businesses. They often are left out of the conversation, but they are a huge untapped resource. I mean, you know, the numbers aren't clear, but it's estimated there's anywhere between 2.4 to 3.5 million small businesses in South Africa. Some of them are, you know, informal and some are a little bit more established. But, you know, I always said, you know, if we equipped these small businesses to hire and mentor at least one young person, that could put that young person on a path to having their own business or stepping into another job because they will have that experience. And I think this is a seriously missed opportunity in the current South African context. You know, if we look at attempts to create localization, you know, even if we think about township economies, there's often a lack of coordination between key role players. We have, because of the history of apartheid and the segregation, you know, trying to bring business into township economies can be difficult. But how do we support these, you know, local small business owners to become thriving businesses, where you get people in the community to support them and spend their money in the places where they live instead of having to spend a fortune on taxi fare traveling to city centers to, you know, get their groceries or do their shopping. And I think we need to equip young people or people who are going into small businesses with the importance and explain the value of the value chain. You know, for example, if somebody's going to open a braai stand, that's not just, you know, they're going to need the meat, they're going to need wood suppliers. So, you know, why not, if you're a young person looking for an opportunity in your community and there's 10 people with braai stands, instead of you creating another braai stand, why don't you become a supplier of wood or of the raw meat to these other businesses that are already established? And so I think if there was space in the curriculum, we need to teach young people to begin to think like that. But then additionally, you know, I think Allegra's story is testament to this. There's only so much theory you can teach. And if you want young people to be entrepreneurs, you know, there is a lot of practical and on-the-job kind of training that I think is needed for this. And young people are often lacking that guidance or lacking the mentorship to make successes of their ventures. And so I think we need to start looking at that more than thinking about, should we add, you know, a component to the basic education curriculum on entrepreneurship, which is all fine and well. But I think, how do we translate that into practical experience for young people is something that we need to think about. And how do we connect existing business owners with young people so that they can mentor and guide and be role models for young people? And if you are a young person and you're thinking about, you know, where should you be honing your skills to become, you know, stand a better chance of being employed in the future, I've got the top 10 skills of 2025 from the World Economic Forum's The Future of Jobs report here. And I'll just go through them very quickly. Analytical thinking and innovation, active learning and learning strategies, complex problem solving, critical thinking and analysis, creativity, originality and initiative, leadership and social influence, technology use, monitoring and control, technology design and programming, resilience, stress tolerance and flexibility, reasoning, problem solving and ideation. And I, you know, when I read these 10 top skills, I thought, is the South African education system preparing young people equipping young people with any of these skills? And my short answer is no, it's not. And I think if we want to start creating a world where youth can create these opportunities for themselves and drive localization of the economy, then we need to start thinking about, how do we use the school curriculum? We have young people in school for 12 years in this country, and what are we really giving them so that they can step out into this new world? I think a lot of the curriculum is still, you know, quite conservative. It's still very traditional. It's the same curriculum that's been going for decades. But the world is a very different place. Even before COVID, the world was becoming a different place. And I think the combination of, you know, 4IR, as the previous speaker was alluding to, and the pandemic has just shifted us very much into a world where young people need skills that are transferable. You know, the analytical skills, the thinking skills, as mentioned there, and the ability to use technology. And we need to think about, how do we prepare young people in the school space with those skills? A lot of, if you speak to employees, I think a lot of employees and you know, some of the business owners on this call today can probably attest to that, that they really realizing they need to reskill their workforce. And so I think what's going to become the norm is, you know, more internal training within an organization, or self-learning through online learning platforms. And you know, how do we make that accessible for young people, especially if so many of our young people are not employed, and so many of them are without access to internet or data. I mean, we're all struggling with load shedding currently. So these are barriers that young people face, and it puts them at a disadvantage to carry on, you know, learning for themselves. Or, you know, as Allegra said, she made use of her time during lockdown by studying and teaching herself web design. What an amazing skill. But if you're a young person and you don't even have a laptop, how are you able to do that? And so I think we need to start looking at what the realities are for young people and really understanding what those realities are, so that we can make solutions that you know, address the needs of young people. And I think for young people themselves, you need to be aware of your physical, emotional, and mental health. You know, I can only imagine what it's like to look for a job for 3 years at a time and continue to get rejection letters, and what that must do to a young person's self-esteem. Or if you have attempted to you know, start a business and you know, if you've had many businesses fail, you know, that bears on one's mental health. And so we need to start putting interventions in place that support young people in their mental health, and give them access to some kind of psychosocial support that's affordable for them, easily accessible, and meets their needs and meets them where they are. And then lastly, you know, what advice would I have for youth who are entering the labor market? Just some short little key snippets, because a lot of the other speakers have covered some of this already. But I think for young people, you have to understand that every challenge is a learning opportunity, and everything that you've done is experience that you can put on your CV. So my experience is a lot of young people don't value things that aren't formal work experience, and they won't put it on their CV. But that volunteer work that you did, if you looked after your cousin after school every day, these are all things that prove a skill set. You're responsible, you know, you showed up for something, you learned a skill, even if it was, you know, child minding. These are all valuable things, and employers will value that if you put it on your CV. So I think young people, you need to value that for yourselves firstly, and then communicate that to potential employers. I think, you know, a lot of the other people have alluded to this, but, you know, to take initiative and to look, you know, inquire, research. We're all learning all the time. I think for those of us who have maybe been working for a while, we can attest to the fact that you're always learning and you're always growing. And I think young people should continue to do this. And I know it can be hard when you're trying to manage, you know, life's many challenges, work, family responsibilities, etc. But find the time to continue to grow yourself, especially in a world that's so rapidly changing. The more skills you can give yourself, the better chance you stand of making a success of whatever your endeavors are. And understand that, you know, your current job is not necessarily your dream job, but it is a stepping stone to that dream you have for yourself. And so try to make the most of every opportunity. And I think my last point, Allegra's already covered perfectly, but, you know, to pursue something that aligns with your interests and abilities, because you are far more likely to experience long-term success if you follow your passion. But Allegra's already put that perfectly. So that's just some insights from our side. I've kept it short in the interest of time, but I hope that gives you a little bit of an idea. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Crystal. Thank you so much. You know, you don't have a presentation, like you say, and there's one or two people that have asked, I mean, they like what you say, they want to try and remember it for as long as possible, and they're asking if they could please, if you do have it and you were, you know, disturbed by load shedding, whatever the case may be, if you could please share it with us, if that's possible. You know, we will reach out to you as Proudly South African and request that you share with us, and then we will distribute it accordingly when we do our closeout communication with the people that attended. They also have the same request for Sipho, you know, to also share his presentation, if at all possible. But as we close the session, I'm going to request that the speakers who are still online to, you know, switch on their cameras so we can have closing comments. And while they do that, I'm going to go to the Q&As and see if anybody wants to tackle anything important from the attendees. I don't see anything on questions and answers. On the chat box, there isn't anything on the chat box that I can see. I'm going to ask PR to look out on Facebook, and if there's anything that they pick up and they think is important, please will you share that with us? Belinda, just a quick question for you. Let's say I get a job and I realize how valuable I am. How do I go about getting a promotion or a raise? How do I approach my boss for a promotion or raise? This question is from, let me just get the name, Sibabalwe. Sibabalwe wants to know how do they navigate, the corporate world in trying to grow in that space. Is Belinda there?
Yes, I am. Thanks, Happy, and thanks for the question. Like I mentioned, I think it's very important, especially in the current economic times, to be very mindful of your company's financial situation, more so maybe within the department that you are working. Whilst you obviously can see clearly where you've made a difference, I would suggest you document it in a form of a report or presentation, present this to your superior, and be very clear in terms of the value add, the difference you have made. And like you mentioned, you're looking for a raise, be specific. Yes, we do have a budget to accommodate you. We've noted the value add. What ideally are you looking for us as an organization to offer you? You need to be specific and be clear in terms of what you're looking at, but you need to be very factual. Not I think, I believe, I'd like. Be specific of where you were at when you started and what difference you made to assist the organization in reaching their goal and aligning it with your personal goal as well. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Belinda, for that response. Thank you very much. I do not spot anything else in the chat box or questions. I'm not getting any message from Facebook. So what I will do is, before I thank each and every speaker, if there's anybody, any of the speakers rather, who would like to give us just a 60-second cutting shot in no particular order, please go for it.
Thank you, Chair. Mine would be to be grateful for this opportunity to interface with other colleagues doing similar work. I would encourage that we collaborate, we find out each other where are we, and share the resources that we have, because we've got limited resources in this country and we've got enormous challenges. To the young people that would have tuned in today, I would say seek out feedback aggressively so. Go find out from other people who know you better. What do they believe you're good at? And if you agree with it, work hard on it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sipho. Well received. Thank you so much. And thank you for showing up today. We really appreciate your contributing to this discussion. We don't take it for granted. In Sesotho, they say lekamoso. Thank you so much. Anybody else? Thank you. Allegra, I'll pick on you.
Oh, no, I've got nothing to say after that. I'm just grateful for the opportunity. I'm always happy to speak, especially where young people are involved, just to, see change happen. A lot of the times, like I said in my talk earlier, young people have great ideas, but they just need that push in the right direction. They need, I see it a lot on my social media. People just send you inboxes about, just yesterday, a young lady sent me an inbox and she thanked me for showing up for myself and always going after my dreams, because it motivates her to never give up on herself. So I think sometimes it's just that. It's not even the fact that they're unable to start because of the capital and everything else, but they just need that word of motivation. And it's sessions like these, talks like these that we have, and when they do join in, they realize that, hang on, there are people out there that believe in my potential and I actually can do it. So I hope this session served as that motivation for all the young people, be it you want to be an entrepreneur or you want to excel at your profession, finding a job. I hope it drives you in the right direction, and, we'll all come out better on the other side of the pandemic. I believe that. I'm very, optimistic, and, we'll get there. We'll get there together. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Allegra, and thank you for showing up. Thank you for showing up. That message you got on your social media platform is true. You showed up today. Thank you really for being so selfless and doing what you can to play your part. And keep being the trailblazer and the disruptor that you are. You're such a disruptor. You have no peace in a good way. You know what I mean? You're in it to win it, really. You're just going after everything. But thank you, and we look forward to welcoming you to the Buy Local movement.
I'll wait for the email. I'm waiting for them to contact me, and I'm all in.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Allegra. Crystal, I'm going to give it over to you. Your closing comments.
Sure. Just to say, it's been great engaging on this platform today, and I think it's been a real mix of voices from different angles, which is exactly what young people need. I think they need all these different viewpoints. Information asymmetry is a real struggle for young people, and sessions like these where young people can get all perspectives is really meaningful. So thanks so much for the opportunity. It's been great to hear from the other speakers, and I'm going to have to jump off because I have another call now, but it's been a really great experience, and all the best to everybody. Have a lovely day.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Crystal. Thank you for being with us today. Really appreciate it. And Belinda, your goodbye message?
A quick one from me, just to say thank you once again for affording us the opportunity, and to all the youth out there, don't be afraid to ask. Perseverance, resilience, and a passion for what you want to do makes it all worthwhile. So daily, get up, dress up, show up, and never give up. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Belinda. Much, much appreciated. And last but not least, Eustace Mashimbi.
Thank you to everyone who tuned in today. I think it was a session with a lot of information that can prove to be very valuable to you. It's up to you in terms of how you receive it, how you use it. One of the biggest challenges facing this country is unemployment, and entrepreneurship is a real option available to everyone out there. Try to endeavor to be an employer and not an employee. You've heard from amazing entrepreneurs today, and those who've shared valuable insights with you. So my advice is let's pursue entrepreneurship. Developed economies rely mostly on SMMEs as a source of jobs. And so we have to follow suit and not wait for the government or big business to help save the day. So that's my parting shot. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mashimbi. Well, much appreciated. With that said, I just want to also thank everybody that joined us online to come learn from these amazing, experts in their different fields. We are hoping that you grabbed as much as possible and absorbed as much as possible, like a sponge, because there was so much to be shared. But like Eustace says, you can take the horse to the river. What happens there is another story. It's really up to you how you use the information. But thank you, everybody. Look out for our many other engagements on social media platforms coming up. You've seen Game Time now. Game Time, they're commercial. You do have it. Do with it as you please. Put it on your communication. It's a message for the country, for the betterment of our economy. We can't hold on to it as proudly South African. Otherwise, it defeats the purpose. And join the movement, and let's all do this. Wishing everybody a wonderful day forward. Keep warm, and we'll see you soon. Thank you. Bye.